We are in the third halacha in the laws of Teshuvah in chapter 4. We're talking about the 24 things that stop a person from doing Teshuvah. Now we have another 5 things. Umehem chamisha dvarim. Haoseh otam, if you do those, one of these 5, I efshar lo sheyashuv beteshuvah. You will never do Teshuvah. But he's adding here Teshuvah gemura, real Teshuvah. Now let's see what are these 5 things that he's talking about. Lefi shehem avonot sheben adam lechavero. Why is it so hard to do Teshuvah? Because these 5 sins we're about to learn, it's between me and another person. It's not between me and Hashem. Ve'eno yodea chavero. Now you don't know who the person you sin to. Now if I'm sitting in front of Hashem, then my business is with Hashem. Now sometimes the sin is between me and another person, but I don't know who I sin to. Now you're going to have a problem. Now if I know that I stole from you, then I know who to give it back. But if I stole from somebody and I don't know who I stole it from, now who are you going to give it back to? Now you're going to have a problem. Now if I hurt somebody in an indirect way, how can I know to come and apologize? So what are these 5 things? Aleph, first one, a person who curses the majority of the public. Now I don't know who I cursed. Sometimes you can scream out loud. You see a group of people doing something and you curse them, but I don't think that your curses don't have any meaning. Now you cursed a group of people, now you don't know who it hurt. Now you don't know who you cursed. If you know who you cursed, you come to the person and says, listen, I cursed you the other day. I want forgiveness. I'm taking it back. But if you cursed a group of people, and don't think this is something that doesn't belong to you. How many times somebody cut you on the road and you cursed him? Maybe once? No, can't be. But now you cursed the person, and you don't know who it is. Now how are you going to ask forgiveness? And you think it's nonsense that you just cursed to somebody? I mean, some of the curses, Hashem Yerachem, what people curse. Ooh, the diseases that doesn't even exist, you curse people with all the diseases. I mean, I heard people how they curse other people, Hashem Yerachem. Now how are you going to ask forgiveness from that person? He's 120 miles an hour. He already disappeared. You got to be very careful with what comes out of your mouth. Next, ve'acholek im ganav, that you share the portion from a thief, shelefi she'eno yodea geneva zo shel mihi, but you don't know who he took it from. Now, how many times somebody comes and sells you something for a very cheap price? How you get it so cheap? It fell off a truck. Really? Okay. Now you know that you're not allowed to buy stolen merchandise because you are, so to say, sharing it with the thief. Now, if you don't know, if you came into a store innocently or whatever, that's a whole different thing. But if you know that individual is a thief and you're going to buy from him stolen merchandise, you're not allowed to do that. You're participating in the theft. Now, what's the problem here? You don't know who he stole it from. Let's say you didn't care. A year later, you want to do Teshuvah. Who am I going to go now to apologize? That's a big problem. Ela haganav gonev rabim umevilo. Now, a lot of the times, you know a certain individual is a thief, and some people even order from the thief, go and get me, I need this and that. Now, you don't know who he stole it from, and you're participating. Now, who are you going to say sorry to? Now, you're holding the merchandise, and you don't know where it came from, and don't think this is so far-fetched. Now, that's why you need to buy from reputable stores and merchants or whatever. You can't participate in any type of illegal activity. Next. And I know a lot of people say, oh yeah, what's the big deal? Well, it's a big deal. Because if you stole, you are liable for the theft. Now if you buy from a thief, then you know that person is a thief. I'm not talking about when you don't know. Then you are participating here. So much more so when you order it in advance. Some people order things. I need you to get me this and that. Next, Gimel, Hamotze Aveda, when you find something, a lost object, ve'eino machriz alea, and you don't declare on it. You know, you have to have an obligation. It's called Hashavat Aveda. You found something, you have to make a declaration. Oh, hello, anybody lost this iPhone XR GBTUR, whatever the latest version is? You know, it's most people are like, oh, But you have an obligation to declare, I found something, to put a note, I found here. What if you found a lost object and you didn't declare it? Ad she'yachzirah leba'ala, and you're saying, it's hefker. Suddenly your Yetzirah becomes a very sophisticated posek. He tells you all the laws of hefker, when you're allowed to take it, when you're not allowed to take it. Nevertheless, now you took something that is a lost object, and then you came to your senses, you don't know who to give it back to. You don't remember where you found it, when you found it, or now who are you going to give it back to? That's a problem. Number 4, va'ochel shod aniim v'itomim v'almanot. Very interestingly, he uses the word here, shod. This is a very, this is a very Rambam word. It's not like even a Hebrew word that is so common. I shouldn't say Hebrew, but it's not really a common word. It means an ox. But in other words, really what it means, what he's saying here, that you're eating the ox of a poor or an orphan or a widow. You're taking the food of an orphan or a widow or a poor person. Elu bnei adam umlalim. These are poor people. Umlal is like not a sad person, but somebody who's going through sorrow. An orphan and a widow and a poor person. Ve'enam yeduim umfursamim. And they're not known or famous or anything. Ve'golim me'ir le'ir ve'en le'em makir. And they're going from one place to another and nobody knows them. Now I'm not talking about when you're taking it and eating it, when you're taking their actual ox. Now you don't know who to give it back to. Because if they're from the community, but sometimes there's a bypass. They come through the city, you take it, and then they continue going. Now you don't know how to find them. And again, in our generation, one might say, listen, I didn't take any ox lately. Did you take an ox lately? I didn't see you walking around the street with an ox. I started walking with a dog, but not with an ox. But nevertheless, sometimes you have to see how is that connected to our times. And in many of the cases, there are people, and you see many travelers, they come to big cities, they here for 3 nights, and then they leave. And, you can take something that belongs to them, whether you think you are borrowing it, maybe you took it by mistake, or whatever. No, but they're travelers, you don't even know how to find them now. It's a big problem. This is another problem of gezel. We're going to get to it another time. That's the big problem with gezel, because you don't know who you took it from. That's one big problem. Gezel is theft. But anyway, a robbery. But not robbery when you're putting a gun to somebody's head, when you're taking somebody without the person knowing even. Next, number 5. When you take a bribe to prevent judgment. Now, a lot of times people say, I don't take any bribes. When the bribe doesn't have to be necessarily with an envelope full of cash. The bribe can be in, I'm going to give you a job, I'm going to give you a place to stay, or whatever it is. Now, what happens is, when you bribe somebody to change the situation, you don't know how far the bribery went. What's the power? In order to reverse it. Sometimes, you need somebody to help you in some place, and you either give money or some type of good. But that person has to give some good to somebody, and you don't know how far it goes and how you're going to reverse it. Because this action has like feet, it continue goes. Not only that, the second that I gave you some bribe to do something, and you're out on the loose, you are being sinning constantly because of me. And again, not a lot of people on a daily basis they bribe. You have to be maybe a politician to deal with it all day long. But in many cases, people take bribes, believe it or not. But again, and it could be that you're not doing it in the last 20 years. Or maybe 20 years ago somebody gave you a bribe to distort, or you gave somebody a bribe to distort, to prevent judgment, and now you don't know how far it went, and now you don't know how to track it. So just to conclude this halacha, it's talking about things that are impossible for you to track in the future. Now, how do you do teshuvah on something you don't know who you stole from, who you hurt, who you did? I don't know. Now that can prevent you from doing teshuvah. How you do teshuvah, it doesn't say right now how you do teshuvah for that. It just tells you these are the things that can prevent you from doing teshuvah. Now you need to go back to the archives in your mind and say, wait a minute, maybe 20 years ago I did something that has to do with that. And that might be preventing you from doing Teshuvah. So I suggest you get a shovel and start digging in the depth of your mind. Maybe you did one of these things. I don't know who I did that. Later on, we'll discuss already how you do Teshuvah for that. But first, I have to know what are the things that will prevent me from doing Teshuvah.